Big changes are coming in 2026, and our parents and students deserve clarity. My name is Brian Roberts, and I would like to welcome you to the Debt Squad podcast brought to you by NSU. In our podcast, throughout the episodes, we will cover assorted topics related to financial aid, borrowing, and things that you may need to know to financially set yourself up for success from matriculation, not just here at NSU, but from universities in general. We'll have esteemed guests join us who are experts in their rightful areas, and we want to get into the questions that we know you at home and you that are listening are interested in knowing. Again, welcome to our podcast. We hope you stay tuned. These are the kind of conversations that a lot of universities or institutions should really make sure that they're having with their students or incoming students from the undergraduate level through the graduate level. Because undergraduate, of course, you have students who've never had a job, right? So they started already kind of on the flip side of things where, hey, I've taken out the student loan and now I'm maybe getting my first campus job, my first real source of income. Now I'm kind of getting to my first set of bills, all the way through graduate students, which I know you mentioned a lot of institutions don't have it, but they need the resource just as much because now they're borrowing at a level that they've never had before, right? They've never had the limits before. They're managing now we're earning some on an entry level, some being professional students. So I think that financial literacy portion of it and all the things that you all do, whether it be from the Debt Squad or from any of our resources, is so essential to the success of the holistic student experience. And I think that is one thing that more people should really focus on is it's not, you're not just here for the studies. Like that's not just what college is about or university is about. The studies is what you're getting out of it, but the holistic student journey and making sure that we're understanding finances and understanding the impacts. These are more conversations I definitely think need to happen as not only here at NSU, which we do a great job at it, but as a national or even internationally at large.
Yeah, so we want to, what you really need is to develop the skill sets that you need to be a functional adult.
Yeah.
And we haven't been doing enough of that.
Yeah.
So again, not to be political because I can't stand it right now. We hear a lot about things like socialized medicine, right? In 1950, there were 16 workers for every one retiree. Right now, there are 2.7 workers for every one retiree. But 60% of people who work take more money out of this tax system than they pay into the tax system. So only 40% of people that work pay into the tax system more than they're taking out, which means only 39% of people work full time. So essentially, when you run all the numbers, there is one American out of every 17 Americans that's paying more money into the system than pulling money out of the system. Now, why doesn't anybody know that? This is a basic thing, right? But people want socialized medicine. They want, and rightfully so, because they have it in other countries. Medical expenses are expensive. It's one of the if you have a family, I have kids, when the single most important thing is what happens when they get sick. How are we going to take care of this bill? Right, the hospital will charge you $20,000 a night if you got to go to the hospital.
And
right,
kid germs are vicious.
Yeah, exactly. They never stop. Right, so you have to, but they're just on a basic fundamental. There is one person out of 17 that's paying into the system more than they're taking out of it. How do you pay for that? Well, you can't. Everybody has to produce. So now this is a twofold thing. The first is why don't people know how our system works and how money flows through the system? I'm a systems focused coach. So just like you in sports, they talk about systems quarterbacks. Oh, this quarterback only works in this system. Everybody's a systems quarterback. And I mean that for us. If you are a person in a society and you understand the systems in that society and you understand how they work, you could use those systems to your advantage to make yourself profitable and put yourself and be successful no matter who you are, what you look like, or where you are, right? But we're not teaching that. We're not teaching what that system is. We're not teaching how the system works. We're not teaching okay, these are the things you have to do. And then we wonder why everybody's broke and angry about it. Well, rightfully so. The other side of it, so how does the system work and how can I use it to my advantage? The other side of it though is that, well, there aren't enough people working. I need to work and I need to take care of myself and I need to do what Nicholas Taleb would say is make myself anti-fragile, which means not only am I recession-proof, not only have I put myself in a financial position so that even when the overall economy goes down, I'm not affected and I'll be okay. But then when the overall economy goes down, I'm doing so well, I've set myself up so well that when the stock market crashes, I could buy those stocks down here. So when it recovers, I'm wealthy. I could buy those houses down here. So when the market recovers, I'm wealthy. We're not teaching anybody any of that stuff, right? So to go through school and not only get your education that broadens your horizons and makes you a better adult, makes you a better person, but also develop a skill set that makes you a better earner and allows you to contribute to society more and to provide more value to others and get compensated for that value. But then when you get the value, to know exactly what to do with it. Because it's not just the student that all of a sudden they took out all this money and had to repay their loans. It's not just the loan side of it. It's also that student that's never worked in their lives. And all of a sudden they're making $150,000 a year. They're making more money than 90% of the world. And they don't know what to do with it. Then that hedonistic treadmill comes and they start spending money. They start buying boats. If you got to buy a boat, buy a boat. But rent it out for 3 weeks out of the month. That way the 1 week that you get to use it, somebody else is picking up the cost and you get to use it for free. Do you know what I mean? Do things in the proper order and you'll be fine and you could still have all the things you want. But most people don't do that. They're whipping out that credit card because they didn't learn the good habits. Even they're spending money they don't have to spend in Target, on eating out, on fancy cars, Chili's, right? And so even though they're making a ton of money, they're still broke and they don't understand why. Now, like I've known people that on small salaries, I'm from New York, right? I've known people that on small salaries, one income in New York City, coupon cutting, were able to buy houses in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Because they knew how to limit their spending and they knew how to manage their funds that they had effectively. And even in a place that's incredibly expensive to live, not only did they do okay, they prospered on a normal income, on one income. Everybody, now that's not always going to be the case for a lot of people. There's some places that
if we have any extreme couponers out there, please teach me. I'm teachable.
And I'm also like there's a guy, there's I'm not going to mention names, but there are podcasters out there. You know, I listen to everybody. I listen for good advice. I listen for bad advice. There are people out there that tell you shouldn't buy that cup of coffee, right? You need to see $1,800 a year is too much to spend on coffee. Well, is that what you're in it for? Do you really like that cup of coffee? I used to have a job in Manhattan. I worked for a security company where I was an inventory analyst. So it was a little bit of accountant, a little bit of warehouse work, right? And in the mornings, we got there really early in the morning. We had to make sure all of our installers got out in the morning. And then me and my buddy would take turns buying the other guy a cup of coffee. If I'm working hard and I can't buy my buddy a cup of coffee, what am I doing? You know what I mean? You have to know that there are things that you find valuable, and there's no sense of any of this if you can't do that thing.
Correct.
But you also have to know that there are no solutions. As Thomas Sowell would say, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. If you're buying that cup of coffee, that means there's something else that you can't buy. You can't buy this and buy that, and then you're broke, and then complain, well, how come I'm broke? You spent all your money. You didn't manage it properly. So what trade-off am I making to have this thing? And as long as you account for that, then anything that you want to buy is okay. I had a student, I'm so proud of this guy. It's one of the things I get to be proud of my students. I get to tell them things that nobody else told them that they should have. And then I get the feedback. I had a student that they owed quite a bit of money. They worked real hard for 2 years and they paid off their entire loan. And we're talking about a couple $100,000.
Wow.
They paid off their entire loan in 2 years. And then they came back to me and they said, well, you know, the smart thing for me to do is buy a house. But I'm going to be out here in California for another 2 years because that's where the money is right now. And I want to move back to Florida. So I don't really want to buy a house in California. I'd really rather buy my house in Florida. But I really want this car. Right? Now cars are bad financial investments. But now you're talking about somebody who worked hard through school. They work even harder after school to pay off their debts. They know what the smart financial thing is. But there's still a little bit of ways before that's going to make sense. But they have this car that is what they really want. Right? So I was able to tell them, you know what, you've earned it. Go buy that car. You've earned it. But just make sure you know that you're putting this much money every month. It's going to make it hard if you do this other thing. And there's no reason. We live our lives in the moments in between living and dying, right? Now, most people, there's a great book called Die with Zero. I read a ton of books. There's a great book called Die with Zero. It was written by an engineer, not a financial guy. And he says the most efficient way of having money is to run out of your very last dollar on the day that you die. Most of us will save all of our money to go skiing in the Alps. And these are his examples. Most of us will save all of our money to go skiing in the Alps. And then by the time we get to where we feel like we can go do that, we're 70 years old and we can't go ski in the Alps anymore or we'll break a hip. Now that was so inefficient what you did. You didn't live your life in between. Most people, right, they will work their whole lives and pay off their house. And when they die, when they're 80 years old, they leave their kids their house. But their kids are already in their 50s or 60s and they don't need the house anymore. And but if they would have used that money in their 20s or 30s to either set up their education or or to buy them their home. So now when they needed the house the most is when they gave them the money. That's the most efficient way of doing things. We don't do things efficiently when it comes to our money. None of us do, right? So how can we start looking at that and being able to live our lives and buy that cup of coffee and go to Chili's and go do the things and have fun, but also keep in line where we're trying to go. How does that, what we have left, build what we want? And you have to have room for both. Okay.
It's a balance.
It is a balance.
It's a balance for sure.
So you have to, so that's what a lot of the things we're trying to get across. Go to school, live the college life, enjoy that experience because you'll never have it again.
Enjoy the experience.
But don't do it so much that you failed your classes. Don't do it so much that you can't pay for your life later on. And finding that balance for everybody is going to be different. We do those things every day here. And so that gets us, that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about what I do is I can tell people, live that life. That's why you're going to school, but you have the roadmap. Make sure you're following your roadmap.
And this is why we need, experts like you who are able to break down even changes when we talk about loans and things like that, changes that are happening, because hey, how do I still take out the resources that I need and enjoy my college experience, enjoy what, like you mentioned, those moments in between now. So like this is very, I think, essential to the conversation because like we know that a lot of misconceptions and fear mongering that go along with just the notion of borrowing. And hey, we don't want debt, those kind of things. But like you mentioned, there's the good and the bad in it. And it's about how you find the balance, that silver lining. How do you treat yourself, right? Like this is the phrase, how do you treat yourself in the middle of working on the things that you need to work on? So I think that is definitely essential to the conversation, because we couldn't just talk about okay, here's how you earn, here's how you pay off. What about in between, right? Exactly. What about the middle part? And that is a crucial portion, I think, of the puzzle that not many people speak about. But if I'm going to see a value in even borrowing, if any of this conversation is going to make sense, we've got to make sure that makes sense in context. So it's like, hey, I borrowed so that I can enjoy these years of my life, whether it's my 4-year degree, whether it's my professional degree, my graduate degree, how do I enjoy those times in between? So shout out to your student though, who you mentioned was able to pay off. Listen,
very proud.
I wish, looking back, I wish in my undergraduate years or even in my graduate years that I had that kind of sound financial counsel that was able to walk me through things. So now we're like, all right, cool. We're making it, right? We're making it happen as most adults do. But I think it would have been such a benefit to my life to have something like what we have, whether in you or in the Debt Squad, that could have kind of helped me navigate it a little better.
So what you just said there, right, is specifically, now I can't talk for anybody else. I can only talk for me, right? Now, what you just said there is specifically the reason why I do what I do and the way that I do it to make sure that everybody's getting the right information, right? Now, you say expert, right? I'm loath to call myself an expert. The minute I say that I'm an expert, they'll have 45 people lined up to show me how I'm not, right? Now, I have bad imposter syndrome. So even things that I know for a fact that I know, I will still continue to look it up just to make sure that I know it. And I'm also constantly I read a ton of books. I'm constantly learning new things and bouncing that off, right? But when I was a kid, when I was growing up, I come from a big family from New York. We were really poor. I grew up, we did not have a lot. For my 16th birthday, I got a haircut from a real barber, and I was excited because it's exactly what I wanted. We could not afford a lot. We moved a lot, we had to afford the rent. So, and now I teach doctors about money, right? you're not going to be not everybody. There's so many things to know. It's impossible to know all of them. When we go into a room, we turn on the light switch and we don't think about how the electricity works. We just want to know the light goes on, right? So you can be at that level and there's nothing wrong with that. You could be completely, like I don't tell people what stock, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't tell people what stock to buy. That's not my role. But I do tell you how different things function and why you need to invest, right? But I'm constantly learning. Whether you are 16 years old, or 18 years old, or you're 25, or you're 40, and you've made a ton of mistakes with your money, you don't know any of this stuff, that's okay. 90% of people don't know anything about money at all. Only half of the people who do actually do the things they need to do. Right now, wherever you are, your starting point right now, start from here. Don't beat yourself up over things that happened before, the mistakes you made before. You can't do a thing about it anyway. You're just wasting energy. So focus on where you want to go. Focus on what you have to fix and where you want, and just learn. Now, for me, I'm learning constantly. If somebody asks me a question, right, there are so many things. I'm so much better now than I was when I first started doing this, because a student would ask me a question and I didn't know the answer. And I would read 3 books about it, and I would watch 12 podcasts with billionaires that explain what they're talking about. And if I still didn't know, I would look at it right in front of them and say, this is what this is, right? Every one of us has the ability to do that, as long as we are not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity, right? And we are constantly trying to improve ourselves more than we were yesterday. And if you just keep doing, and you're going to make mistakes, that's fine. Make those mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake again. Right? Go out and you live your life, have a good time. You're gonna be, you guys are young kids. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this. You're gonna go to the bar one day and you had a great test. Drinks on me. Don't do that. But you might do that. Right? Okay. Pick up a couple extra shifts to pay that credit card bill off as quickly as you can. Don't do it again. But every once in a while that's going to happen. Do it. But the biggest thing is, don't be embarrassed by what you don't know. Every one of us has a job, and the reason why we have that job is because we're doing something for somebody else that doesn't have the ability to do it for whatever the reason is. Right? Our whole system is based on me knowing one thing and other people and you not knowing it. So I'm going to help you out, right? Any one of us who doesn't, wherever you are, if you're 40 years old and your credit cards are a mess and you don't have enough money saved in the bank, you don't have enough money in your retirement funds, okay, that's your starting point. Learn the things. If you're a student here, we're going to teach you those things. We will help you set your life up to move forward and to be successful financially and to get yourself where you need to be. And all of that stuff is just as important as the degree.
Absolutely.
Because no matter how much you make, you don't learn how to manage it, you're going to blow it all. You'll still be broke.
Exactly. And so we've taken them from the time that they, have to take out a loan or do any borrowing. We've navigated, using your office, the resources that the university has, enjoying those times, but of course, within balance and constraints. We've even talked a little about repayment. So for our listeners and viewers, what do they need to be doing now, right now, before any of these changes officially take place? Like what is their right now task if we had to give them any?
Okay, so if you're in school right now, if you're already in school and you're taking your courses, just make sure you finish, right? Borrow the money. Now, know if you are a spender or not a spender, okay? If you are somebody who does not spend money, you could maximize those loans, take out those loans because you're not going to get yourself into trouble for them. They have favorable repayment terms, and you could use it to set up your life. Things like people don't understand when you leave college and you go off into the real world. You got to get an apartment. You need the first month's rent, last month's rent, a month's of security. You need the moving van, you need the couch, you need a refrigerator, you need all the things hanging on the wall. It costs money to register your car in your new city. It costs money to set up your utilities. And then you need the very first rule of personal finance is to have 6 months of your bills in the bank. Somebody who's good with spending, who does not spend more than they need to, could use the student loans to set themselves up that way. Maximize your ability to set up your financial life. If you are a spender and you can't stop yourself from doing it, that's okay. As long as you know this is the case, don't beat yourself up for it. Just prepare yourself for those conditions. For you can't borrow more money. You have to maximize, you have to use as little as possible to get through your degree. Just make sure you finish that degree and you get working. Okay, get working, produce. As Ray Dalio says, never out-earn your production. Yeah. Never make more money than you're producing for your company, or you won't be working there long. All right. So you got to make sure you produce, and you know, when you take care of the school thing, you'll have the funds. Okay. If you're thinking about starting a graduate program, and you already have your bachelor's degrees, and you're thinking about starting a graduate program, make sure very quickly find out what that job pays. Now, I use a salary aggregator called salary.com. There are tons of them, right? They tell you, they pull from actual payroll, and they tell you, okay, this job pays this much money. So if you're getting a degree, what's the job that goes with that? What does that job pay, right? So you have an idea of what you can reasonably borrow, but get into your program as quickly as you can. Get into that graduate program as quickly as you can, so you have access to the funds that you need to get through. Okay?
And potentially start before July.
Correct. You want to be July 1st. You want to make sure your classes start before July 1st. Very, very important. Okay. Now, if you're undergraduates, if you're an undergraduate, you're not affected by the changes yet. But if you're in your undergraduate, you are automatically affected on the master's level and higher. Right. So for those students, before you transfer into their program, before you accept that program, right, understand what all the costs are. Our website, we have all those costs. And not only do we have those costs for next year, but we have those costs projected out for the entire time that you're going to be in school getting your degree, year by year, what those costs are going to look like. So you could already plot out how much is the education for this degree, at least at NSU, how much is that going to cost you to finish, right? Then, well, what is the job on the other side? What does that job pay? Make sure what that job pays, you can repay. Now, that doesn't mean don't go to school to get the degree. You know, like there are plenty of degrees, like I've had a student that had a degree in theater. We probably have a lot of them in here, right? If that's what you're driven to do it, right? But you have to be, what is the average salary for that on the other side? Because remember, in a job like that, there's what you make when you're working, but a lot of times you're sitting on the sidelines until you can get the job. So you have to account for that too. What is the likelihood of working in the field? Some ridiculous number, like 70% of people with an undergraduate don't work in the field that they have their degree in, unless they get the master's. But once you get the master's, you're focused, and that's your profession, right? So what is that going to pay you? Don't borrow more than that, but then start looking into how you're going to get that funding before you start the master's degree. How much am I going to use from the student loan side? How much can I use from the federal student loan side? How much am I going to need to supplement for the from the private side? Now then, there's other things. What else can I do to minimize my bills while I'm in school? Right now, when you can get unlimited money, you'll have students that rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $4,000 a month on the beach, even though they're by themselves, because it's free money. They're not looking at the cost, right? Well, don't do that. Right? But can you get a 3-bedroom apartment where you have roommates and you're cutting the cost, you're sharing the cost, you're buying from Costco, so you all share the cost of the food. You know what I mean? Do you need a BMW, or are you better off with a Toyota? You're definitely financially better off with a Toyota. Right? The expenses are less. You don't have to maintain, it doesn't cost as much to maintain. What can you cut out on that? Different things, go out and have fun, but give yourself a limit on your spending where you say, okay, I have whatever it is. I could spend $100 a week on me on whatever I want. Then you can go throw it into the ocean and it doesn't matter as long as you don't spend more than 100, right? But give yourself a fun money budget, so I can have this much fun every week, but I can't have more fun than that. And you won't blow up your finances. You won't get out of your buckets, your imaginary, your budget buckets, to actually, whatever budget you set to get you through school, you're actually falling in there. You're actually hitting it. So you again, if you're in school now, you've already gotten most of the prep work done. Just make sure you finish, and make sure you know that you're going to have to pay a bill soon. If you're not in the graduate program and you can get in this year so you have access to more funds. If you have not started undergraduate, you're going to be fine, but in undergraduate, start learning how to manage your money and start looking at the future programs for how you're going to calculate what that's going to look like for you.
All right. And for those who are maybe wrapping up their borrowing or wrapping up their program, I know previously there were kind of standard forbearance periods, like between the time that you graduate or matriculate to the time that repayment starts. Do we anticipate any changes to that period?
So there's so all of your loans now get a 6-month grace period. And this is actually, it's an important concept to learn, especially for a lot of people who may have started school, then took a time off, and then went back to school. It throws off your timelines. So the Stafford loans, which is your subsidized and unsubsidized loans, and your Graduate Plus loans, get a 6-month grace period. So what that means is 6 months and 1 day after you were last officially enrolled half-time, right? 6 months and 1 day from your last day of attendance, your loan's going to repayment, right? Now, they're not talking about your graduation date. That's a ceremony that has nothing to do with when you're actually in class. It's the last day that we have in our system that you're in school. And a lot of times that might be a week after your last class because the professor needs time to grade the papers and things like that, right? So the last day that we have you officially in that class, that starts the clock at 6 months and 1 day you go into repayment. Now, if you were in school for 2 years and you left for a year, if you had loans previously and you went beyond that 6 months and 1 day, those loans don't have a grace period anymore. So as soon as they know that you're out of school, you're going to go into repayment. Now, even that generally takes about 90 days for all the systems to update so everybody knows that you're actually out of school.
You're out of school, yeah.
So, but those loans will go into repayment earlier, so you have to understand that. If you've taken any time off between finishing your degree, then you could very well have loans to go into repayment early. Now, the funny thing is, though, if you took a space of 5 months and 3 weeks and you went back into school and you officially were back in school before that 6 months hit, it resets as if you never took any time off. So your whole grace period resets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but you're always safest thinking that a bill is going to hit you earlier. That way you're prepared for it earlier. And then if it's like a month later, okay, well, at least I didn't miss the payment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you also want to make sure that you are accounting before you graduate. You're, okay, well, how much do I owe? What am I going to have to do to repay this? Yeah. How am I going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a real important thing. So what happens with us? Scalability is always an issue. Now, because outside of the university, like a private person doing this would charge so much money for services because nobody does it, we have a high demand for our department, specifically from those graduate students, right?
Imagine, yeah.
Right now, you have this 6 month grace period, and you've been borrowing money for a certain amount of time. You know you're going to have to repay these loans back. Yeah. Like Stephen Covey says, be proactive, right? The first habit of highly effective people, be proactive. To put yourself in position to be in a good place, right? Now, if your loans go into repayment in November and you reach out to me and I have an emergency, I need to know how to repay my loans. You've already had 6 months at that point, plus all the years of schooling before then to have an idea of what you need to do. So we help as everyone that we can. We want to help everybody, but there's, to all of a sudden, oh no, my bill went into repayment. I need to pay today. You need to help me now. That's not real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your emergency happened 3 months ago.
Yeah.
If you are prepared for months in advance, you're going to be set up and you'll be fine. But if you wait to the last minute, you're going to have some panic time.
Yeah.
Even then though, these loans have a ton of protections. Under the current system, you have up to 3 years of forbearance, meaning you could postpone a payment for any reason, as long as if you owe 20% of your annual salary, they must grant you forbearance as long as you have it up to that 36 months still, right? Mm-hmm. So you get up to 36 months of that. You also currently get up to 36 months of deferment for a financial hardship or a medical hardship. Now, you don't want to use this time if you don't need to, because interest is accruing, you're not getting payments towards your repayment programs, but there are a ton of protections on the accounts, right? That's currently. So most students, they don't owe 20% of their annual salary. Their annual salary is 20% of what they owe.
Yeah.
So almost everybody qualifies for that hardship.
Yeah.
Right. So you can protect your accounts. So you're protecting your financial scores, so that you don't get yourself hurt financially, even if the bad things happen. Now, where they're changing that is moving forward. They're no longer allowing deferment. This starts in 2027, January 1st of 2027. This starts where they will no longer allow deferment. And they will only allow you 9 months of forbearance for every 2-year window.
Wow.
Right? But if you lost your job, you could apply for an income-driven plan and you'll get a payment of $10 a month.
Because your income
is low.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So even in those scenarios, you call up your servicer, you tell them I need to use forbearance. Right now you get a limit of 36 months. When they make this change, there's no limit. You get unlimited forbearance. You can only use 9 months out of every 2-year window, right?
Got it.
But the way that works is they set your payment on a 12-month block, right? So if you struggle a little bit, you call up, you use your forbearance for 3 months, You apply for the payment plan, get a $10 a month payment, which you'll be able to scrounge up $10 to be able to make that payment. And then that carries you for a full year.
Yeah.
So you won't need to use the forbearance again for longer windows than that.
Yeah.
You could always readjust. The federal government readjusts down what your payment is based on what your salary is. So if you're struggling financially, you can get them readjusted. Now, struggling financially does not mean you bought 3 cars.
Right.
And now you can't because you have all these other debts. You can't serve your
Right. So yeah, I was gonna say not debts we put ourselves into, but
Correct.
like real life incidents, real
Correct.
things that are happening. Well, John, I know that we can talk so much more about just different things that come with forbearance and delays, and I'm sure within this series we'll have more time to catch up. But we wanted to thank you for your time so far. We've had great, fruitful conversation, and I know, like I mentioned at the beginning, that this series is really intended to educate our students, our potential students, our future sharks, our parents, and all really on what this looks like, kind of really navigating a new landscape financially for our families to be able to still enjoy and partake in higher education and making sure that they're just really prepared and equipped. So what is the best way for someone to reach, whether the Debt Squad or the team? If you have to give a quick little blurb, how do they get in contact with you?
Always email. Email is the best way. We have, like we can't guarantee that you're going to make a call and you're going to get on the phone right away. We do return the messages, but emails, we are extremely responsive to our emails. So the email is debt, DEBT, MGMT at nova.edu. So debt management at nova.edu. We are extremely responsive. Now, appointment times tend to get backlogged, at the moment. As we expand the program, we're gonna have more and more counselors so that we can reach more and more students. Yeah. But I'd rather you send me an email and ask me your question in an email. The only bad question is the one that you don't ask.
Yeah.
Okay? Ask the question in an email. It's a lot easier for me to respond. And then when we find out the background, we find out how much you need to know, we'll set an appointment at that point, and we'll go over all the things.
So go for it in the emails, see if you can get your answer in the email.
Correct. And then, we want to see you. I want to be able to, it's not realistic that I'm going to talk to every single one of our 20,000 students every year.
Of course.
Right? Even though I wish I could.
Right, yeah.
But what I want to do is get you the most impactful information you need at the time. Henry Ford proved in a court of law that education is your ability to get the information you need when you need it. What he said was, why should I fill my head with useless information when I can get what I need at the touch of a button?
Yeah.
Now that was 100 years ago, 120 years ago, whatever that was. Right now, in your pocket, you have a computer that's more powerful than all the computers of NASA combined when we sent our first astronauts to the moon. Yeah. And most of us have one. So you have access to the information you need when you need it all the time, like Henry Ford said, right? Are you utilizing it?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Ask me the question. I can get you started on the road to go look it up yourself if you need to. Don't believe anything that I say. Look it up for yourself. Yeah. Make sure you are confirming that what I'm telling you is true. Yeah. It is. But confirm it.
But look it up.
Right. Don't take my word for it. Right. And the more we go over, so I have students that since I've been doing the debt management side for 9 years, and I've had students that have seen me every 3 months the entire time. Wow. This is where I'm at now. This is where I need to go. What do I do? Yeah. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes. Sometimes it takes an hour and a half for that conversation. Don't worry. We got you.
We got you.
Okay. But ask the question first, the debt management box, DEBT, MGMT at nova.edu. And then we'll go from there and set up an appointment when we're available, when we can make it work, and we'll go over all of it. A lot of it is trial and error. Yeah. Make your mistakes. There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was written by Dr. Maltz, who our psychology building is named for. And what he talks about is how our brains work. And they work the same way that cruise missiles work. You launch a missile and it's going where it goes. But then in mid-flight, it readjusts to where it has to go to hit the target. And then it readjusts again. Our brains work exactly the same way. Don't be afraid to make your mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, your brain won't know where to adjust. Yeah. So you got to anything you do well is worth doing bad. Yeah. Do it bad first until you get there to do it well, and money is no different. So come and see me, ask me your questions. No question is a bad question unless you don't ask it.
Thanks for listening to the Debt Squad podcast by NSU. If today's episode made you realize that you have a couple more questions or you're looking for more information, please understand that you are not alone. NSU is committed to helping its families and students navigate all of these changes and successfully accomplishing their goals in their academic careers. If you want more information, we encourage you to visit NSU's website for resources and updates. And also, please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss any of the upcoming breakdowns that we have regarding this bill and others that may be like it. Thank you again for listening and hope to see you at our next episode.